Well, good morning. It's good to be here with you. What? Oh, well, thank you. I know. It's good to be here. And I'm really excited about today's service. So, Marty was on his deathbed, dying. And in his last few minutes, he asked the doctors and the relatives and everybody to leave. He said, I just want to spend my last couple of moments alone with my wife. And they left. And he said to her, you know, before I go, there's something I've got to tell you. And she said, save your strength, save your energy, whatever it is, it's okay. He said, no, there's something I have to confess to you. She said, really, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter now. He said, no, I have to tell you the truth. I had an affair. And she said, I know. Why do you think I poisoned you? Well, I needed kind of a scary story for today because it's it's October and we'll see it'll kind of connect with the sermon in a roundabout way. Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. Bring your brokenness and bring your power. Bring your fatigue, your early morning aches, and your energy. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting that are printed in your leaflet. You can do it. Hey, come on up. Then I can actually see what's printed here, because I've always wondered. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to bless and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And it turns out, even with the words right in front of me, I couldn't get it right. I still did it out of order. I don't even understand that. Please stand if you are able and join us for song 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. To rejoice and come in. today will be number 579. Number 579. This is a piece by Frederick Douglass called The Limits of Tyrants. And if you can believe it, I just opened the book to this page at random, and there it was. So let's find out what this random page in the book has for us today. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are people who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without awful of its waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out what people will submit to, and you have found out the exact amount of injustice which will be imposed on them. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those they protect. We share our joys and sorrows, and I would like to think that we find that joys, when we share them, are magnified, and that sorrows, when we share them, can become a little lighter. So please take a moment, think about if there is something that you would like to share, and if you do, please come up and light a candle.
Yes, good morning. And a specific joy I had was last week, last Saturday, my sister, Heidi, who's from Utica, New York, where I grew up, and my niece, Adrian, who is also from central New York, but she did live in the UK for a couple of years. She's married to a great guy from London. My sister Heidi and niece Adrian arrived in Toronto last Saturday, and we picked them up at Union Station around 8 o'clock, and we had a nice dinner waiting for them at Eric's apartment. And we were especially joyous because Eric's been there for 25 years. We've been in a relationship for 25 years. And this was the first time that any member of my family ever came for a visit to Toronto. So we had a great time Saturday at Eric's place. And then on Sunday, my niece treated us to a boat ride in Toronto Harbor while we had one of the best lunches I've ever had. It was absolutely delicious. We took lots of photos of the skyline in Toronto, and it lasted probably a couple of hours anyway, right, Eric? And then we walked from the waterfront back to Eric's apartment, traveling through historic neighborhoods. And then on Sunday, Monday, we just did some things around the neighborhood, and we went to the Distillery, which is an historic district in Toronto, and had a great time, and they left the following day, so we had a great time. And also joyous because Eric and I came back from Toronto midweek, and we knew it was our turn to provide refreshments for coffee hour. So we enjoyed putting some things together, and I hope you like chili. I asked Eric to tone it down a little bit because sometimes he can go a little heavy on the spices. But he did tone it down. And he made some really delicious garlic crisps, outstanding, to go with the chili. We have some vegetables, raw vegetables, for those of you who might not like chili or don't, or you might be vegetarian. That would be fine. We have some cheese, and we have like 2 different kinds of desserts. So please, I hope you brought your appetites with you today, because you will be satiated by the time you leave if you choose to partake. So those are my joys that I wanted to share. Is there somebody else? Oh, there you go.
Okay, I'm just back from a wonderful vacation with Jen and Emerson and Abby, and it was just fantastic. Abby went crazy at the condo that I have and fixed everything. Everything. There were problems with mice because it's been unoccupied for some time, and he grouted all the spaces all around. And I had asked him, when he was going to do it, and he said, "I already did it." We had 1 mouse after that, but other than that, it was just wonderful. It was great to be with them. They're terrific people, and I'll light a candle for that.
Thank you. My name's Meg. This morning, I was texting with my daughter, firming up some plans to see her on the 24th in Batavia. She's coming up from Jersey. And she said, "Is that going to be okay?" And I said, "I would go to the top of the Himalayas to meet you." And I really do mean that. And my candle today that I'm lighting is for the blood of my blood, my mother, my family. I'm going to see my nephew tomorrow for his 18th birthday in Syracuse. Blood that has gone since and will yet to come. That's what I want to light my candle for.
I'm going to light 1 more candle for those joys and sorrows that we are still carrying inside. And this is the time of the offertory. And if Peter was here, he would say, "Don't anybody put any money in the plate." But it is coming around anyway, and this is when we share our gifts for the work of this church. We're going through a time of menacing change, dark clouds and foul weather ahead, plus it's autumn. And with Halloween coming, I wanted to share a witch story today. And the last time I was here, I was talking about the Odyssey, so I thought I would share a witch story from the Odyssey. After years lost at sea, facing storms and monsters and terrors, including the giant Cyclops that ate several men of the crew, the weary adventurers found themselves at a pleasant island where Odysseus, scouting for food, was fortunate to find a mighty, high-antlered stag sipping from a river. So he speared this buck and brought it back to his crew, and they feasted on venison. Then some of his sailors ventured forth to explore the island, following a path through the forest, and they found themselves in a clearing, surrounded by a mixed pack of lions and wolves who closed in on them. But these predators didn't attack. They wagged their tails like house pets. Then the sailors heard singing. There was a palace nearby, and it was like the whole building was an echo chamber or natural amplifier. And they followed this sweet voice to the door, and a woman or goddess invited them inside, spread a great banquet for them, including a special cocktail of, if you can imagine this, wine with soaked grains, honey, and grated goat cheese. And apparently this was just fantastic. And while they drank this, their host circled around like playing duck, duck, goose, and she tapped each one of them on the head, and then she led them like ducklings toward this little enclosure. And then they realized, to their horror, that they were not ducks. They were pigs. Now, one guy who had stayed outside the castle to keep watch saw her leading these pigs out, and he recognized them as the crew. They had bristles and snouts and pot bellies, but he could tell that they had human consciousness, maybe because they were acting self-conscious about suddenly having those like ridiculous curly tails. And he ran back and he told Odysseus, who stomped off to rescue his men. On his way, he met a stranger who turned out to be the god Hermes, who gave him a root to chew on that would counter the effects of Circe's magic. And when Odysseus arrived, the enchantress welcomed him inside, wined and dined him, and then tapped him on the head. But he just continued eating and drinking, and since it's Odysseus, I assume he was also talking very eloquently about himself. And Circe was so impressed by this guy, the first man ever to pass this test, that she proposed that they try the experiment of trusting each other. So she led him to her private chamber, whatever, like, saxophone solo and fade to the next scene. And then she summoned nymphs to bathe and oil him, and she set out more food and more wine, since no one could ever resist wanting to feed Odysseus. And Odysseus is never one to turn down a free meal, but in all of his travels, this one time he refuses to eat. He says he can't eat while his men are trapped in pig pens. And the enchantress is so saddened by the sight of Odysseus at a table, surrounded by food and with no appetite. Like, she really wants to watch him eat. Everybody wanted to watch him eat. He was the most epic eating champion in all of the ancient world, and he could do all of this with the most excellent table manners, so it was quite a show. And Circe really wanted to see him do this, so she went to the pig pen and not only restored their human forms, but she made his sailors younger, taller, and handsomer than they had been before. Now, the Circe story can easily be reduced to a simple fable in which the sailors were already hogs, driven by appetite, and she merely externalizes their inner piggishness. But this doesn't fit quite right because the men were invited. Actually, in ancient Greece, the real breach of etiquette, the rudest thing they could do, would have been to refuse food that was offered. It's also unclear what she intends to do with these pigs, whether or not they will be eaten, and also, for that matter, whether the magnificent stag that Odysseus hunted when they first reached the island was the unfortunate transformed hero of some earlier episode. But whether she intended to feed them or not, and whether the transformation to swine was a change for better or for worse, we can see that there's also this other side of her. She wants to feed this shipwrecked sailor, Odysseus, even to the point that this turns out to be her weakness, giving this mortal an advantage over a goddess, and she gives his crew back to him because she wants to take care of someone. The Roman author Plutarch wrote a dialogue in his Moralia, expanding on the scene of Odysseus refusing to eat. He says, as Odysseus lounges with Circe, he requests that any former Greek men in her menagerie be turned back into human form. And she asks him if they would actually be happy about this, and offers to give one of the animals the power to speak for himself. She even leaves the room so that she can't be accused of influencing the speaker. So Odysseus gives this pig the good news that he'll soon be human again. But the hog says, well, hold on there. You always think you know what's right for everyone, but you've got this situation all backward. We're happy here, happy as pigs in mud, and you seem to think we should leave all of this abundance of garbage and mud and our gracious hostess behind to become men again, the unhappiest of creatures. Odysseus sneers that this sailor's transformation has warped his mind, and then kind of mutters that perhaps he was always a pig to begin with. But the pig continues in his reasoning. Odysseus considers the human to be the greatest of creatures because of wisdom, virtue, and courage. And yet the wisest of men, Odysseus, always uses his wits for trickery and deception. But the wild beasts, he says, are straightforward and true. When they need something, they fight for it. And their courage is not summoned by some government notice or spurred by fear of corporal punishment. He then raises the interesting point that among animals, the female is as dangerous as the male and will leap into the fray. And this, we all know, is true. Among lions, tigers, and bears, the females are just as fearsome, and among humans, maybe more so. And when it comes to love, he says, the animals don't make a big charade of it. They don't play games and hide their feelings and try to lure someone in by trickery. When the proper time comes, they do what comes naturally, and when the mating season is over, they get on with their lives. And concerning the virtue of Odysseus' wife Penelope fending off proposals to remarry, he brings up that the common crow will mate for life, and if widowed, will remain single forever. He says that only the human takes more than it needs, including inedible things like gold and silver, which are used to measure who is most contented and blessed. This sailor, seeing the wealth of others, once considered himself to be a loser, but now he knows this was all an illusion. Now that he's a pig, he sees no difference between gold and any other rock. It doesn't smell like food, so it's useless. He has at last found contentment with a belly full of trash, lying in cool, soft mud. Odysseus goes on. He really does his best, finally arguing that people are superior because only humans have knowledge of the gods. But the pig is also unimpressed by this, and rightly so, since in Greek religion, mortals could only communicate with the gods if they spilled animal blood as an offering. Then the dialogue cuts off abruptly, and scholars have debated for centuries about whether there was more of it that got lost in the ravages of time. Really, nobody can believe that Odysseus would let anyone have the last word, especially this pig. But Plutarch's readers would know from the Odyssey that Odysseus does convince Circe to turn the swine back into sailors. So maybe we should pity this poor pig, who really does his genuine best to get Odysseus to mind his own business. But I'd like to think that this guy returned to his human form with some recollection of what he had learned in his animal days. And I'd also like to think that people listened to him, since apparently he had turned into a taller, handsomer guy than he was before. In the Odyssey, once the sailors have been restored, as Odysseus requested, now he's willing to eat. And she throws a big banquet that lasts all winter, and never mind how she acquired the animals that she served at the table, until the winds are just right for them to resume their journey. She even gives them instructions and sends a breeze to help them reach the land of the dead to get further instructions, and more important, she explains how to get back from the underworld. She warns them of the sirens and sea monsters they'll encounter and explains how to escape unharmed. Without Circe, Odysseus and the sailors would have unwittingly sailed straight into their doom. In her book-length study of Circe, Judith Yarnall writes that this goddess has the power to reduce a man to a squealing, rooting helplessness, or to inspire him to range beyond his former boundaries, to find his soul's direction in the midst of chaos. When the world is changing around you, and familiar people are taking unfamiliar shapes, things won't always go back to the way that they were. In this story, Odysseus gets one more story to tell, but his men who have faced this most horrific thing come out of it renewed and empowered. So when things are changing around you, don't look for them to come back to the way they were. But don't give up on the possibility that if we are patient and firm, these frightening changes might be one turn of the wheel toward some greater transformation of strength and renewal. Thank you. Please stand if you are able for our next song, number 131. Has tried us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you can sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way have any announcements today?
Just want to remind everybody, next Saturday is the No Kings protest. There's one in Williamsville, there's one in Buffalo. I don't think there's one in Niagara Falls. But it's a way to feel empowered and to make your voice heard about what's going on in our country.
Together we sanctify this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some of it. Remember that you are blessed and you are blessed. And you are not. Please join me for the words of distinguishing the chest. We extinguish this flame, not for the truth, the warmth of community, the fire of movement. Please keep sharing our hearts
until we are together again. I just found this little ditty this morning, as a matter of fact, so I have no idea how I might end up interpreting it. Raven hair and ruby lips, sparks fly from her fingertips, echoed voices in the night. She's a restless spirit on an endless flight. Ooh, witchy woman, see how high she flies. Ooh, witchy woman, she's got the moon in her eyes. She held me spellbound in the night, dancing in the shadows of the firelight. Crazy laughter from the other room, and she drives you mad, drives you to madness and commands the moon. Ooh, witchy woman, see